Judges chapter 15. The title of the sermon is Selfish Samson. Selfish Samson. Judges chapter 15. Alright, Judges 15. We're going to start. I'm going to pray for us. Father, I thank you, Lord, tonight that you're good. I thank you, Lord, for those men that come up here. Those testimonies can't be made up. They're real as you get and original. And so, Father, I pray for each one of the men that come up here, Lord, and the women. Bless them and continue to use them in their lives. I pray for the future people in this audience that haven't made that after Christ, but they're still in the before Christ stage. That, Father, tonight will be the night where they put their selfish lives on the altar and start living for Jesus. Father, I pray if there's anyone in here struggling tonight, just like Samson, that you reach down from heaven and you get into business. Let their lives be changed. We lift up James Shipley as he's preaching his first sermon tonight. Bless him, God. Pray for Brother Rick, who's preaching in Omaha, Lord. We just thank you so much for all you've done and continue to do. In Jesus' name. Judges 15, we're going to do a little bit of reading. I feel like we should go over the whole chapter, so we're going to try to do this right. After a while, in the time of the wheat harvest, it happened that Samson visited his wife with a young goat, what every woman wants. And he said, let me go in my wife. Let me go into my wife, into her room. But her father would not let him go in. Her father said, I really thought that you thoroughly hated her. Therefore I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister better than she? Please take her, he insisted. And Samson said to them, this time I shall be blameless regarding the Philistines if I harm them. Then Samson went and caught 300 foxes. He took torches and he tied the foxes tail to tail, and he put the torches between each tail. And when he had set the torches on fire, he let the foxes go into the standing grain of the Philistines, and burned up both the shocks and the standing grain, as well as the vineyards and olive groves. And when the Philistines said, who has done this? They answered, Samson, the son of the Timnite, because he has taken his wife and given it to his companion. So the Philistines came up and burned her with fire. Burned her and her father with fire. Verse 7. And Samson said, since you would do such a thing like this, I will surely have revenge on you. And after that I will cease. So he attacked them, hit them, died. That means it was a great slaughter. And he went down and dwelt in the clefts of the rocks of Edom. Now the Philistines went up and camped in Judah and deployed themselves against Leah. And the men of Judah said, why have you come up against us? So they answered, now the men of Judah are speaking to the Philistines, we have come up to arrest Samson to do to him as he's done to us. Now 3,000 of Judah went down to the clefts of Edom and said to Samson, do you not know the Philistines rule over us? What is this done to us? And he said, as they done to me, I do to them. John Thurman's here, everybody. Verse 12. But they said to him, we have come down to arrest you, that we may deliver you into the hands of the Philistines. And Samson said, swear to me that you will not kill me yourselves. So they spoke to him, no, we will tie you securely and deliver you into their hands, but we will surely not kill you. And they bound him with 2 new ropes. I'm almost done. A lot of reading. So they bound him with 2 new ropes. Made me miss my place. I'm blaming everybody here for that. 13, thank you. 14. When they came to Leah, the Philistines came shouting against him, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and the ropes were in his arms were like flax, and is burnt with the fire, and the bonds broke loose from his hands. He found the fresh jawbone of a donkey, and he reached his hand and took it and killed 1,000 men with it. Now let's go to verse 18. Then he became very thirsty and cried out to the Lord, said, "You've given this great deliverance by the hand of your servant. Now shall I die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised." So God split the hallowed place in Leah, and the water came out, and he drank, and his spirit returned. Therefore he named the place, whatever that word is, which is Leah to this day. Now listen, Samson, this thing sounds like it's fresh batteries in this thing? Okay. We'll see what happens. Samson, a man who was called to be the judge of Israel, a man who had more abilities than any other judge in the entire book of Israel, of Judges. A man that could have and should have done more for the children of Israel than any other judge in the entire time period of the book of Judges. Samson's in the middle of a life crisis right now. He should have listened to his parents. Even though Samson's been blessed by God, and God's been trying to reach him this entire time, Samson does not even recognize or acknowledge God for most of his life. So here he is. Samson's in the middle of a life crisis. Samson's in a situation that he'd never been in before. Do you remember what Samson did? Samson could care less about his calling. He wasn't concerned about God and what God had for him, because Samson's number one life goal was to please Samson. Samson's life goal was to please Samson. Samson ended up hooking up with the wrong woman. Let me say that again. Samson ended up hooking up with the wrong woman. Some of you are going to end up hooking up with the wrong woman. Some of you are going to end up hooking up with the wrong man, which led to what? The wrong friends. Which led to what? A lonely situation. And now he's angry and he's alone. Have you been there? Have you been there? See, in the culture Samson was in, whenever you would marry a woman, you would bring a gift. You would bring a gift to the father, and Samson brought what every woman wanted back then, a goat. Wouldn't you be happy if your husband or your fiance, instead of a wedding ring, bought you a stinking goat? That's what happened. That's why she probably didn't want to marry him. See, it was during the wheat harvest. It's the time of the wheat harvest, and the Philistines were idol worshippers. The Philistines worshipped the god called Dagon. Dagon was the god of the grain. And so it was a time of romance. It was a time where men and women were hooking up. And there was a time where people were getting married and people were courting each other. And Samson had pretty much become a Philistine. Samson had joined up. Samson didn't know what he was going to do with his life. See, Samson's goal in life was to please Samson, but God's goal for Samson was to be a warrior, for him to be a deliverer, for him to make war with the Philistines, for him to deliver his people, because that's what a judge was. A judge was a deliverer. A judge was somebody who was selfless, not selfish. Samson was called to be a judge, but Samson was going the wrong way. Samson was doing what pleased Samson. Samson had a special calling in his life. God had a purpose for Samson. Samson was called to be a Nazarite, someone who was separated to God. Samson was called to be the deliverer for his people. I bet Samson was thinking this all along the clefts of those rocks, angry, abandoned, with no friends. I should have listened to those who loved me enough to tell me the truth. Sorry. I should have listened to those who loved me enough to tell me the truth. Now I'm alone. Now I'm angry. Now I lost my girl to my best man. I should have listened to my mama. I should have listened to my daddy. I should have listened to my preacher. Samson gets angry. He loses his cool and he starts killing Philistines, the hated enemy of God. He killed 1,000 of them. Samson had ability. Samson was strong. Samson burned their crops down. Samson was really good at blaming other people for his problems, because that's what selfish people do. Samson began to blame the Philistines for his problem. Samson began to blame the father of the woman that he thought he would marry for his problems. You know who was really to blame? Samson. Samson was to blame. Samson wasted his God-given abilities on selfishness. Samson was running from God's purpose for his life. Samson continued to run into life crisis after life crisis due to the fact that he was outside of the will of God. See, the reigns of the just and the unjust alike. Good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. That's just life. The Bible is very clear on that. But let me tell you very carefully, ladies and gentlemen, some of you listening to the sound of my voice are running head-on into life crisis after life crisis because you are running from God. It's nobody's fault but your own fault. Tonight's the night when some get accountable for their own sins. Tonight's the night when some step up and say, you know what, I'm wrong God, and you're right. It's not about people. And you surrender to it as God. The first point is this. Samson was his own worst enemy. Samson was Samson's own worst enemy. How many of you figured out you are your own worst enemy? Yeah? How many of you figured out you are the biggest hindrance to your walk with God? I meet with folks in the men's house and they come in and I ask them a question. I say this. Are you willing to do whatever it takes? Are you willing to surrender to the authority of the ministry and receive help our way, not your way? See? Are you willing to get rid of you and give us this window of your life to teach you how to be a man of God, to teach you how to be a woman of God? And the only thing that's stopping you, and Tyler will tell you, I told him this, is you. Is you. People want to blame other people. People want to blame places. Just like Samson. Look what it says in verse 3. This time I shall be blameless in harming them. Are you kidding me? This time I shall be blameless in harming them. Verse 7. Since you do a thing like this, I'm going to take revenge on you. Since you did that, I'm going to do this. Whose fault is it? It's your fault. Listen, you never have an excuse to hurt somebody. You never have an excuse for your sin to blame on someone else. You cannot give somebody else the credit for your sinful lifestyle. It's nobody else's fault. Listen, here's my family motto. You can take this down, put it on the refrigerator. It's not my responsibility how you treat me. It's not my responsibility how people treat me. It's my responsibility how I treat people. See, that's my responsibility. Look at verse 11. As they did to me, so I do to them. Do you notice Samson kept putting blame on everybody else for his problems? Do you notice that Samson kept shifting the blame for the reason that he kept sinning and hurting people and doing things he shouldn't do? Does this sound familiar? Samson was looking at someone else to blame for all the things that happened to him. Here's a newsflash to you. You're not a victim. You're not a victim. I didn't do the things I did because of my neighborhood. I didn't do the things I did because I grew up in a drug-dealing family. I didn't do the things I did because of the family I grew up in, my brothers and sisters, or whatever you want to say. I did the things I did because I chose to do them. I did the things I did because John Stroup did it. It's nobody else's fault. It's my fault. And when I took blame for that, and I got on my face and I realized, you know what, I was never a good God. I was a bad God. Only He is good. Only He is holy. Only He is just. Only He is glorious. Only God. And then I got that realization in my mind. I surrendered to God and I stopped making excuses for my sin. I stopped making excuses for my lifestyle. I've got an 8-year-old little boy that's a walking, talking spiritual illustration waiting to happen. His name's Stroup. He's the #1 knucklehead, just like me. I catch him hustling all the time. He'll say something in a sneaky way to ask me a question without asking me a question that he's not supposed to ask, right? That's him. He's good. And so, Keith would what I did. You need to try this, Mom and Dad. This is a good one. I said, Keith, I want you to explain what you did without using anyone else's name. I want you to tell me what happened today without using one person in your story but you. The only name you can use is Keith. Go. He'd get about 2 seconds, and I'd say, start over. Start over. He'd cry, 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 cry. And I believe God used that to show him that he's responsible for his actions. Listen. Tonight's the night for some of you to get real with God and explain what you did without using anyone else's name. Hey, guess who's going to be accountable to God one day for your sin? You are. Guess who's going to be accountable one day for my sin? I am. The difference between me and a lost man is this. I can say I trusted in Jesus. I trusted in Jesus. I'm no better than nobody else. I know no one else is to blame for what I've done in my life, my sin. But I gave my life to Jesus Christ, and I put my sin on the cross, and I'm raised to walk the newness of life in glory with Jesus Christ. Listen, what happens to Jesus happens to me. My identity's in Him. I'm not falling out of my salvation. No more than Jesus is falling out of heaven. I know who I am, and I know whose I am. And I'm trusted in Jesus. See, Samson's biggest problem was Samson. Samson allowed his lust to lead him into a relationship that he should have never been in. Samson allowed his lust to lead him into a relationship that he should have never been in. God told Samson, that's the enemy. That's the enemy. Make war, make war, make war. Samson said, I love them, make love, make love, make love. Samson's mom and dad said, Samson, can't you find another woman from your people? Can't you find somebody else who loves God? Why would you do that, Samson? He didn't listen. It wasn't his parents' fault. It wasn't the Philistines' fault. It was Samson's fault. Samson gave into his lust, and he did not listen to the counsel around him. Listen to me. I'm going to tell you when you want to way down the wrong track. Believer in Jesus Christ. When you start making life-changing decisions without seeking counsel from the godly men and women God put around you. Men, if you're in discipleship, women, if you're in discipleship, if you have a pastor, if you have a Sunday school teacher, before you make a major decision, you need to seek godly counsel and ask them what they think about it. And if you're not doing that, it's probably because you know you're not supposed to do it, and that's why you're not asking. See? Samson never owned up to his actions, but blamed everybody else, like my son. It's Jimmy's fault. It's her fault. It's his fault. It's the teacher's fault. Samson blamed the Philistine woman for his gambling loss. Samson was gambling. He blamed the woman. And he went and attacked the whole village full of people. Samson blamed the Philistines for his toxic relationship. Samson became angry. Anger caused Samson to lose his future wife. Anger caused Samson to blow his top and kill those people around him in Judges 14. Anger is the work of the flesh, according to Galatians chapter 5, verse 20. You say, I have a holy anger. You don't have a holy anger. You're not holy. Your righteous anger ain't so righteous because you're not the Son of God. Don't be using Jesus, flipping the temple over, flipping the money changers over. You're not a perfect Son of God. Listen, anger, when you get angry, you let your guard down. You're easily invaded. You're easily attacked. You know I'm talking to me. I get angry. That's my number one battle. Anger and frustration, man. That's my battle. Proverbs 14:29. He who is slow to anger has great understanding. He who is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who is quick-tempered exalts foolishness. exalts foolishness. There's a Bible verse in the Proverbs that says this: a man who cannot control his spirit is like a city with no walls, easily invaded. Name one good thing you can do while you're angry. Can't do nothing angry. Can't witness, can't pray, can't read, can't study, can't love your wife or husband. Because you're angry, guess what? Your walls are broken down. Easily invaded. The Bible says this in Ephesians 4. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath. Because why? You get placed through the devil. The Bible also says this in the book of Romans. It says the wrath of man does not produce the righteousness of God. See, Samson was angry because Samson was selfish. It was about Samson. And when Samson didn't get his way, he's like a 2-year-old sissy. He threw a fit, used his abilities to do the wrong things. He hurt people. He blamed other people. It was never his fault. It was always someone else's fault. Some of you wish I would stop preaching this. I think I'm going to stay here just a little bit longer. Samson was angry because Samson was constantly destructive. He would constantly have one destructive event after another destructive event after another destructive event, and nobody wanted Samson around. Sound like some of you maybe. Maybe it used to be me. Do you remember reading the passage where Samson stood up for the Lord? Do you remember reading the passage where Samson delivered the people in the time of need in a selfless way? It's not there. It's never been there. Because Samson wasn't concerned for anyone else but Samson. Samson was called to be a judge. Samson was called to be a deliverer for the people. But Samson never fulfilled his calling because Samson was too selfish. We're going to take a 15-minute break and we'll be back.